Hearing somebody say it. Hospitality. When we hear the word hospitality, what comes to mind? What does our culture tell us hospitality is? Maybe it's a rhetorical question. We didn't actually know the answer. Yes, hospitality. When I look into the dictionary, I saw the word
You said last
let me see. The Oxford Dictionary says the process of general reception and entertainment of guests, visitors, and strangers. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines hospitality as conflict of the treatment,
in like audio last time.
given to general cordial reception of guests, promising or suggesting general unfriendly welcome, offering pleasant or sustaining environment, and readily receptive, open, hospitable to new ideas.
It's only 53.
So when we are out there, when we hear hospitality, in my mind,
It's 4 months.
I see Mother Stewart on television, making everything look so good, so presentable, and entertaining. The relation says entertainment. So the first thing that comes to mind, probably a place to go, a place to rest, but there is an element of business in it. That it's not being done just for the sake of it. It's they're working restaurant, a place, I think that I can do business with you. But this morning, we're talking about hospitality. I would like to focus in Christian hospitality. Hospitality has always been there. In the Bible,
You should like add that.
if you give the time, in George, your patience, and turn to Genesis 18, now read verse 1 to 8. There is a story
on Facebook.
that is well known
I should download it.
of Abraham.
Just do it.
Genesis
Because we need to close the
18,
one up the chat and open the new one.
verse 1 to 8.
How long getting the old? How long you?
It says,
These ones.
later the Lord again appeared to Abraham near the great river Karanja. Abraham was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the hottest part of the day. He looked up and saw three men standing near him. When Abraham saw them, he ran from his tent to meet them. He bowed face down on the ground before them and said, "Sir, if you think well of me, please stay a while with me, your servant. I will bring some water so all of you can wash your feet. You may rest under the trees, and I will get some bread for you so you can regain your strength. Then you may continue on your journey." The three men said, "That is fine. Do as you say." Abraham hurried to the tent where Sarah was and take the her. Hurry, prepare 20 quarts of fine flour and make it into loaves of bread. Then Abraham went to his house and took one of the best parts. He gave it to someone who hurried to kill it and to prepare it for food. Abraham gave the three men the calf that he had cooked and milk and curds and milk. When they ate, he stood under the tree near them. That story is probably one of the early recorded stories in the Bible about hospitality, which is what I would like to focus on. And by the way, this is not, for those who are not here for Sabbath school, this is just a continuation of what we discussed during Sabbath school, especially for asking the idea of hospitality. Christian hospitality, the hospitality when we talk about the world, it is something we do out there as a business so that we can get something.
We got any pins?
But hospitality
We don't know.
The people
You know, you don't know. I
I mean,
mean,
we have to solve the children problem. And that is what I would like to discussing this morning. That is what I am thinking about.
this one.
A way of life for each and every one of us. The question is, what really, now that we define, hospitality, what are the practical, what are the benefits of to us and to the others in the kingdom of God? And the first thing that I like to somewhat go back. Because during the service lesson this morning, Sister TP brought the idea of some kind of disconnect. That she said, when I was younger, we would go to church and the church would at times pick up and we would go and help some people see probably flower in the garden, doing this or there. And John brought up the idea from the Bible, from the lesson, how when there was an epidemic, how the Christians were the ones who went and helped the people who they have been sick. And even though some of them put their lives in danger, it showed Christ in the rest of the world. But I would like to tell you something about this country. Most of us, except our kids, who are born here, live a different life somewhere else where the society is organized a little different. Here, the Surgeon General of the United States issued something that is saying there was an epidemic of loneliness in this country. And the epidemic of loneliness. And it's unfortunate because that is the society we live in. And at times, that is even the condition of us in the church.
Hey.
That we were seeing each other, we were all not happy, but we are all putting faces. We are all putting up appearances. In reality, there's also counseling and we can end up here. We were not here, nobody will be there. We will die, but we will notice. And it is far better to stay. But when we go to and this talk, this is not a part. This is the thought that I would like. It's best to have been a conversation that we have been. But I would like to this. And I would like to encourage to be a community that we follow the path. And this is not just for the other. Each and every one of us have a role to play in making society, in the church, the individual, a little better, a little more force, because intelligence is everything, but not mentality. It is and you can be lonely depending on how. You can be lonely in this church, or you can be poor, or you can be
So that was earlier.
According to the English Standard Version of the Bible, the word hospitality is mentioned for us. It's mentioned in Romans 5:10. Hebrews 13.
This is something.
Saying that in all the relations, hospitality is both action and affection, receiving and loving is training. And not just but either was not just training. But it is not just training, it is for everybody, including those who do. And by the way, talking. This morning during Sabbath, there was a sense expressed that at times we don't meet the standard that we set for ourselves. They always do it but I would like to offer my own part of the and say that as a church, and even some individuals, I can tell people that I developed hospitality in this church, and giving this church, when I'm in trouble, this church is there. They are very for me. They have come to visit you and I was in trouble. They have invited me into your home. And I have come to your homes to have prepared for any kind of help that you have been a living example. You have been a model of what Christian hospitality ought to be. But that means that where we would wish to be and specific challenge at this moment. No, we are not there. But I will give a report and say, yes, we are there. And we will get there together. So, as individuals, because when I come to talk to you, I have to reflect on myself, because if what is it that I have to do and I will practice this, and so it's helping to slow me up. For the recipient, it is good for them because they are seeing the picture of the Christ in us. And so we are doing the ministry that we are supposed to do. So in this case, it is evangelism. Remember, evangelism is the most basic level. Calling others to Christ without necessarily using words, but with our actions. We are hospitable. In this case, we can invite people to come to us, to come for lunch, not necessarily to come to church. Coming to church is good. And I think a lot of the times we focus on inviting people to come to church so that they can become members. I want us to get that idea out of the way. Let us invite people, not so that they can become members, but that they may see the light of God. And we try to use them to please. That is his will. Our job is to invite them so that they may see the light, and God will do the rest. So don't feel like you are a failure because the person who you invited did not become an adventist or still lives his own life. God will speak to them at his own time. So the other thing about hospitality, it's an expression of love. And you are, in this case, for you are expressing your love for the other person under whatever circumstances they may be. He said that child who you are inviting to come to your home, where their home may be unsafe, where there may be a lot of fighting. Hospitality is an expression of love. There's not so love to the world that we gave His only begotten Son. And for us, we are being asked against what is needed. In this world where we are so busy, we are being asked to love. It's a to solve the not disturb. Is it that you should be rejected because of how they dress, how they look? Give them the love, accept them as they are. And guess what? There is nothing as being accepted. How it opens the other person, the person who you never got, like they the person who you got, put them whichever other way. Show them the love. Not because you're showing them the love so they may return service back to you. But it is the right thing because that's what Jesus has commanded us. Our job is to love. This is my commandment that you love one another. So show them love, hospitality. Don't do it because you are expecting something back, but do, and something will come to you because God knows and God will reward you in due time. You know, so, hospitality fosters selflessness. You know, somebody read the other time, Sister Rachel has something that she always says about emptying ourselves under that selfishness. But when we go out to serve others, let's talk about children. When they go out to serve others, when they go out and they're at school and they see the new student, and they go to them and welcome them, which is a form of hospitality. It takes them out of their position of just thinking about me, to thinking about that other person. It empties us of selflessness. And it is a good thing because once you do that, God has a way of blessing you. But you never know what that person will do for you, or what blessings will come from those other persons. Which one of us here cannot say that we've been blessed because somebody else came into our lives? When we are selfish and we go out and put ourselves in, it is a risky thing because you could open yourself and you could end up being harmed. You could open your home and people will come, mess your stuff up, and probably will strain relationships. But God is calling us to be open and loving to those, even those who love us. So we open ourselves and we will be emptied of selflessness, and we will even be able to serve even better. Because when we are selfish, when we are told, right here in church, let us do something, and the first thing we say is, how about me? If every one of us said, how about me? Would anything ever get done? Because we all live a very, very busy life. Can we go out to do this? And we say, and we bring the other person said they'll be doing another thing. And it becomes like that story in the Bible where somebody invited guests to come, and when it was time for them to come, everybody said one. Hey, excuse me, I'm busy. But if we intentionally make it our life so it becomes a part of us to be hospitable, we will not say the other person will do, and we will all be blessed. It deepens fellowship, especially when it comes to sharing food. Why do I say that? Because generally you don't eat when you're quiet. And when we are really close, when we are hospitable to each other, when I'm invited to your house, I invite you to my house, and we invite each other to the park, we just go there and we will talk, and we will know what your problems are. You will know what my problems are. And when I know what has you, when I know your concerns, I am much more able to meet them other than just to have a meeting and do those things. I'm going back and think about it. I'm asking you to think of something that is probably very inefficient. When I refer to you to the idea that the Sergeant General said there is an epidemic of loneliness. Talking about this country, how did that come about? There has been a great emphasis on efficiency. We in the industrial, when the industry came, we learned that you can make something, just make one particular gadget for a wheel of a car. That's a specialty. Another person makes a steering wheel, another person makes, and we become very efficient. Everybody doing that, and not worrying about what everybody else is doing. And the product will be made very, very quickly and efficiently, and you will have a lot of stuff. But I'm asking you, telling you, it's about hospitality. Hospitality is not really the time, because you are asked to do more. You come up to a specialist who says, I will bring one dish. And that's all I will do. I will not care what else happens. In this case, you are being asked to do. Our friends, our departments, when you're then event
And he finish, I shut down everything. Shut down everything.
Do you really know what hurts them? Do you know what their problems are at home? Do you know what they are? What is going on in their lives? Or we just see each other and say happy Sabbath and think that we know each other. Because as I recall again to that epidemic the Sergeant General referred to, it is not just out there, it is in the church. But we have been good enough in this church that we do have some of what there is suggested the things we ought to do. So we have again to say we are doing well, but we can do better. And I'm trying to encourage each and every one of us to think more about hospitality as a lifestyle, because it's not just because God commands it, but because if we do it, it is good for us. When God was talking to Abraham, giving him a promise. He told him, and it's something a lot of people will say, blessed to be a blessing. So God will bless you so that you can bless others. But how are you going to bless others if you don't even know what their needs are? If you don't know them? Are you sitting and waiting for somebody else to do that? And each and every one of us is called and has been given that responsibility of being hospitable. It may not come naturally to you, but each and every one of us can put the effort and become good at it. And we all don't have to express it the same way, but we all can do it. According to the story that we read of Abraham, he looked out for opportunities that came his way. When he saw the three men standing, he could have said, they're going somewhere. But what did he do? He saw an opportunity to go and invite them. And he did not just invite them, he really meant it. Because once they accepted, he went out to do what he had promised. Let us not be the people who say, what may I do for you? Hoping that the other person will say nothing. Because if they say, what can I do for you? And they tell you, I don't have money to pay for rent this month. And you tell them, I'm going to pray for you. And prayer is not bad. But let us let us be practical.
let us be hospitable enough that we will be able to offer solutions. And I'm not saying that every one of us will, in that case, would be able to give that person money, but we may be able to lead them in a particular way. So Abraham, when he met those people, he ran to them and honestly welcomed them. And the blessings that he was promised, they are still with us today because Jesus came through that. And we can be happy that Abraham did that. And I am challenging us, especially myself. There was an incident several years ago, and it still makes me sad because I did not take the opportunity. Those of us who have been here for a while, remember Hurricane Katrina. When Hurricane Katrina happened, I had my home and I was at work, and we had people had driven, when the flood started happening in Louisiana, in New Orleans, people got in, those who could got into their cars and drove. And some ended up here in Georgia. I remember where I used to work, an elderly gentleman and his wife drove, and then when they saw a hospital, they pulled in. They were not sick, but they didn't know where to go. And I remember it wasn't in the church, but it was in the community. There was a request that if you had space in your home, can you host a family that was in distress? And I thought about it, we discussed it, but something that affects us too often. We start getting afraid. We don't step out in faith. We said, what if we host somebody who would harm us? What if, and it's not an unrealistic thing, but God asks us to go out there and invite all to come to him. Let us be hospitable. Take that leap of faith that that person who had come from that longer distance was not coming, did not drive 1,200 miles to come and look for somebody to rob. Let us sort of show a little faith to God that when he promises he will take care of us, that he will take care of us. When he tells us to invite the stranger, to love the stranger, that he means that even though we may get hurt, he is still there with us. And the experiences I've had of other people showing me that hospitality. And that's why this particular incident, somehow, when I reflect back on it, I don't feel good about myself. When I was a young man and I came to this country as a student, and I did not have a job, and a sister knew that I was in dire straits, even though they knew that I ought not to be working, that I didn't have the papers, that I didn't have the things that were required, they took me in and offered me what they knew I needed at that time. They took the risk, and I'm forever grateful that they took that risk. Are we willing to put ourselves out there, to be hospitable, not just to come to church and bring a meal and think that that's the end of it? That's good, but let us take it to leave it out there, that you will invite your brothers from church, your sisters from church, to your homes, to your gatherings, that hospitality can be seen so that your neighbors can see it. Are you willing to invite your neighbors? And not just, remember, your life is the best sermon that they can see. But if you get home, as Sister Sipi was saying, that even the neighbors may not even know who you are. You get home, if you see them, they divert your eyes because they don't know who you are. Have you made that effort? Can you make that effort to be hospitable? Say hi to them. Invite them. See what they may need. You may be surprised that you may be their salvation. You may be the way to the salvation of their souls just by being hospitable. Don't be too busy. Don't be too busy thinking that you cannot afford or have the time to do that. God will provide. God will provide. He knows what you need. He knows what he has asked you to do. Don't be so much afraid that you will not be able to do it. You may invite that person, and remember, let us not be intimidated because of the things we see on television. Your house doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be always tidy. And don't think that people don't know that you're not Mother Stewart, that the cookies don't always have to smell the best. Just invite that person. Invite the young people who are here. You don't know what they're going through at home. You may invite that child, and the parent may be so happy that they get that 1 hour without the child so that they can do whatever it is that they had to do without them. And it may not cost you a lot because that child may come and have a lot of fun at your house, and all you did was invite them, offer them the same food that you are going to eat. But that is that by itself, the child probably would have gone elsewhere where they may not have had the gospel or had the time that you're having with them. So hospitality is not, let us not just think about hospitality here at the church as to what we are doing here. Let us take it with us to our homes, that we may truly live the calling that we have been called. Remember, according to the reading that was read, and I'm going to try to read it again, and from I think the Message Bible, in 1 Peter 2, 9 through 12, it says, "But you, the ones chosen by God, chosen for the high calling of priestly work." Notice the word work. You've been called to work. Chosen to be a holy people, God's instrument to do his work. There is the word work again. You've been chosen to do his work and to speak out for him, to tell others of the night and day difference he made for you, from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted. Friends, this world is not your home, so don't make yourself cozy in it. Don't indulge your ego at the expense of your soul. Live an exemplary life in your neighborhood so that your actions will refute their prejudices. Then they'll be won over to God's side and be there to join in the celebration when he arrives. That is talking to us about the life we ought to live so that we will have an impact in our neighborhood, not just in church, at our jobs, even for the young people at school. The things that you do, children, the things that you do, how you relate to others. Are you the one who always has a sour face when other people see you? Or are you the one who welcomes even the ones who other people are somehow leaving out of the group? That is something that you can play, and it does not have to cost you anything. And by your actions, that may be, or that is what God has called you to be for him. And if we show that to the world, if we are hospitable to the rest of the world, even though it's a risk, because you can try to make a friend and they may reject you. They may even call you names. But God has not told you that it's risk-free. Jesus was rejected by the people he came out to save. But he persisted. He persisted and he got the victory. And remember, as it says, we were once rejected, especially for us. We are strangers. Maybe your children don't feel as strangers in this country, but those of us who have come from elsewhere as adults, we still feel like we are not in that place. So do we welcome those who may not be in place? And I know we do that. A lot of us, we get people coming from back home and we help them. We stay with them. We will do other things with them. But how about other people who are strangers? One day, some people were talking out here and we were congratulating ourselves about how good our church does with visitors. And one person chimed in and said, "Not so fast." And they pointed out that we are very good at welcoming people who we are culturally related, people who look like us, people who speak like us, people we have common things with. But he pointed out that when people visit us who are not Africans or East Africans, to be much more specific, they don't live with the same impression those of us from East Africa live with. can we work on that? That when other people come to this church, we will make that effort. There may be that cultural difference, but we will make that effort to make them to feel just as welcome, to follow through the same way we follow through with others, so that we can truly live the gospel message and not just pay it lip service. Because it doesn't cost us anything or much of anything when a person is coming from your neighborhood back home. You can talk to them about how the goats were running and how everything else was going, how you helped each other dig somebody's garden. But what about a person who has no cultural relevance to what you're talking about? Remember, their soul is just as precious in God's sight. Are you going to extend yourself to minister to them, to invite them to your home? That is the challenge. And I am just as guilty as the rest of us because I have not done that. When I reflect on what my life has been in this church, I have fallen into that same habit where somebody who comes from where I come from, I am very happy to see them. But I probably don't put my foot out when somebody else is from another place. I may say hi and then move on. And it was pointed during Sabbath school that when we look at how our church reflects, and somebody, and I won't call the name, but they had pointed it out, we are failing in that respect, in welcoming, in communicating about others. So practically, what is it that, how are we going to be hospitable to people who come through our door? Because was it last week or a week before, when somebody said they came in because they saw the sign? Somebody came in because they saw the sign saying Upendo SDA Church. So they came to visit. Did we do something? Were we hospitable enough that they may want to come back? While we can do better, but let's not even say we can do better. Let's start saying, each and every one of us ask themselves that question. What did you do? What did I do? Because that may have been one time, but will it be the last time? Probably not. The next time somebody comes who doesn't look like you, who doesn't speak like you, who may not be related to one of us, are you going to be stand in Jesus' place and say, welcome and follow me, and invite them so that they can feel welcome? They may not become a member of this church, but they can be the best advertisement that you've ever had about this church, because they may go out there and tell 1,000 other people how they met you and the kind of reception they got, the genuineness of your spirit that they felt, other than the cold shoulder that they just got welcome because it is perfunctory. It's like it's time for us, let our guests stand and let's say hi to them. And they did that and nobody else did something else. So my challenge to us is for us to make this hospitality not just a work or just an outward show. Let it be a work of the heart, that our hearts are transformed, that when we see others, when we are interacting with others, we will see them and they will know that we see them. We will pay attention to them, that we may know what their issues are and they may know who we are. And maybe that, I remember last Sabbath afternoon when we were discussing, and I said something that often my mouth runs before my thoughts can be. And the elder at the back said, it was about money. And he said, give it and the Lord will take, don't worry so much what they do. And he gave an example of how I think his dad always gave this gentleman money and the man drank. But I think I had heard that story before where he said, that man is an elder today. That man who he gave that money, because the person who was there was living a hospitable life, even though he did not put it to himself to judge and say, you are not doing the right thing. He kept doing what God had told him to do. And God, in his good time, brought that person to his fold. So let us make hospitality a work of our hearts. Let's go out there, love those people. It may be that drunk that he talked about, but that drunk now has changed his life. God has changed his life because of the example that was set. Let us not say we don't have, so we can't give. You have a lot to give. You may not have money, but you have a spirit that can encourage somebody. God has given you so many talents. So don't just look at what you don't have. Look at what you have and go out there and serve him. And in closing, I am going to remind you of that story in the Bible, in the book of Acts. I think it's Acts 2, verse 44, where it says the early Christians, they sold everything and lived together. And I'm not telling you to go out there and sell everything and come and live here. But the whole thing was, they were in unison. They did not care whether somebody was rich, somebody had, but they were there. They gave what they could, and the community prospered. So don't be afraid. Know the people around you. And that is the way God has told you to be there. Listen to them. When Jesus met the woman at the well, he listened to her. And the woman became the best advertisement about the kingdom of God than those people who had been hanging around Jesus, eating the loaves, being blessed. But that person just had that one message and was the best advertisement. You never know the people you will impact by doing the kind things that you have been called to do. I know you have the ability to do it. I know God has given you the blessings to do it. And he has not run out of his blessings from his storehouse. He still has more for you. So he will continue blessing you. God bless you. Be hospitable to your friends, to your neighbors, to the strangers, the drunks, the people who are looked down upon, the refugees, especially the refugees. We may not know some here, but I know some back home when we used to talk about those Somalis, whatever they may be going through. The political situation in this country is changing so much. So don't be so worried about will you have something tomorrow. You can always give something. It doesn't have to be money. God bless you, and may he put the spirit of hospitality in you to serve him.